course. Today I'm just going to be talking a little bit about the very basics of R programming. If you're new to R, it's a very powerful way to work with data. I'll just leave it at that because we'll get more in depth in future courses. This first one is just a very introductory one. Before I do anything, and don't worry too much about this function, but this will basically clear out our workspace of any objects or variables that may have been previously created. So the rm function, if I run it, will clear out this workspace over here. Now today we're going to be working a little bit with a data set that I found on Kaggle. If you don't know, that's a great resource for finding data sets of all sorts of topics. It's great. You can download them for free and use them to practice and analyze different things and work on different projects. This one in particular is a data set that has to do with poverty and some of the variables that could be related to it. It is in a CSV format, comma delimited format, and I basically just downloaded it and saved it in the following directory of my local machine. So this is the syntax that you will use to grab a data set that you've installed or downloaded onto your machine. And I'm going to give it the name of poverty, and then assign it to that object using the following syntax. So if I highlight this and run it, if you look down here in my console, you can see that line of code ran, and it ran successfully without any errors. So now I have an object called poverty that's created over here. If we want to look at the objects that are in our workspace, there's a few functions that we can use. The first one is ls. It'll just give you a list of all the objects. So I'm going to clear this out just so that we can have a fresh slate. And I'll highlight it and click run. You can see there's only one object called poverty. Objects will do the exact same thing. And if we want to know what data type or type one of our objects is, we can use the function called class, and then inside of the parentheses as parameter you put the object inside to find out what kind of type it is. So I'll highlight it and click run, and we find out that the poverty object is of type data frame. And we can talk more about that in future courses, but that is what I want to show you for now. Some other ways to preview some of the information from our data set include the following functions: encol, enrow, and dim. Encol, we'll start off with that one, is basically a way to see the number of columns in our data set. So inside of the parentheses, I'll put our poverty object, and instead of always highlighting and then hitting run, I'm simply just going to have my cursor on the line that I want to run, and then I'll hit Control Enter. You can see that it ran that, and down here we have 25 columns. Same thing with enrow. You can find the number of rows in our data set. Control Enter. 8,400 rows in the data set. Dim is kind of a shortcut to seeing both. It'll show us both the rows and the columns. 8,400 rows, 25 columns. The next thing I want to talk about is viewing all of the names of the columns. The function is pretty descriptive: col names. Inside of the parentheses, put the name of the object. Control Enter. You can see that there are 25 columns total, and here is the names of each one of them. We're not going to go into detail about what each one of these means, but there they are. Next thing to talk about is a way to preview the actual data in your object, and in this case the data frame. There's the head and the tail function. So head, put in the object, and then the second parameter is the number of rows to see. Now head will show you all of the, or the first rows of the data set, so in this case the first 5 rows, and tail will show you, as you probably guessed, the last rows in the data set. So I'll start off with head. So you can see here, the console prints out first 5 rows in the data set. Now, because my window is not very wide, it has to kind of stack them on top of each other. So it's not super pretty, but it's what we have to work with. Same thing with tail. You can see the last 5 rows in the data set. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was the summary function. Simply put the data frame inside the parentheses, Control Enter, and I'll just enlarge this a little bit. You can see that the summary function provides information about each column in the data set, or each column that you specify if you want to narrow it down. But since I didn't specify a certain column, it just did all of them. So for example, there's a column referencing the age. It looks like the minimum age is 15, the maximum age is 117. And then there's the first quartile, median, mean, and third quartile. So a lot of useful information in summary. We'll learn more about this in future videos. But for now, that is all that I wanted to show you. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have questions, feel free to post in the comments. And thank you for watching.